Thank you everyone for attending today. So my name's Ron Myers. I'm the director of editorial here at JoVE. And we also have my colleague, Debasish, and he's a science editor here at JoVE. He works on bioengineering. So, the editorial department itself, just to give you guys an idea, since journals are all structured pretty differently. So our editorial department is responsible for reaching out to authors, kind of identifying new novel techniques, and then working with them on the publication process. So that's our major goal here in the department. So I will give you in today's webinar, I'll give you a brief overview of JoVE, JoVE's history, how it came about, JoVE's origins, and then we'll talk about some of the benefits of publishing in JoVE. After that, Debasish will take over the presentation and he'll talk about the publication process itself. And after that, we can have a discussion, answer any questions that you may have. And like I said previously, we are recording the webinar. So afterwards, we'll send an email to all the participants with a recording. And also, we'll send some links to a survey afterwards. And you're also, if anyone is interested in publishing with JoVE afterwards, we'll send a follow-up and we can connect and get the conversation started there. Okay, so let's begin. And we'll start with an introduction to Moshe Pritzker, who's our CEO. And so he founded the company in 2006. And I'll tell you a little bit about the, kind of the path of what he took in order to come across the idea of founding JoVE. So Moshe was a graduate student at Princeton. He worked on various life sciences, mostly molecular biology, and he was attempting to replicate a crucial experiment in his lab, and none of his immediate lab members or people at the university and other labs weren't really an expert on this technique. So he really needed to branch out and go somewhere else in order to learn this technique. And what ended up happening is he traveled from New Jersey and Princeton all the way to University of Edinburgh in Scotland. And he did train on the technique. He was there for about 2 months and he successfully trained with some experts in the field. They walked him through the process. And he did successfully learn the technique and come back and share it with lab members. However, this did take about 2 months for travel, reagents. It did cost about $10,000 for a single experiment as well. So it's not necessarily ideal. There is a lot of there can be a better way to do this is what Moshe was thinking. And so that, I did have a kind of a similar experience during my postdoc. And, I didn't travel to another country to learn a technique, but we constantly had folks coming in from other labs from throughout the country, throughout the world, coming in and learning surgical techniques. And this was a good learning experience for them, and we were able to relay all the info to them, but very similar situation to what Moshe experienced. It was fruitful, but it took a lot of resources, a lot of time, and a lot of reagents as well. Okay. So the fact that scientists need to travel in order to train adequately on these experiments in order to replicate them properly is happening on an individual level, as we saw here with Moshe. And Similar thing happens with many other graduate students, postdocs. It's also happening on more of a societal level and the scientific community in general. You know, here's just want to kind of go into the details of the reproducibility crisis. So here's a meta-analysis that we chose to look at on how poor methodology reporting in radiation oncology studies makes it impossible to replicate. So this happens in many different fields. I chose a meta-analysis on radiation oncology because it is notorious for being difficult to reproduce. And there's a couple reasons for that. And there's many factors that go into it, but the major one, according to this meta-analysis, is poor reporting of methods. So, they went through various studies, and it was always the details of the protocol were extremely lacking. And if you weren't an expert in this field in general, it would be next to impossible for you to reproduce these experiments. So with radiation oncology in particular, it's of importance that the geometry of the radiation delivery is executed perfectly. You need the dosage to be perfect, instrument settings, delivery. So there's a lot of things that can go wrong. It's a very complex experiment, as are many different experiments. So, this is happening in radiation oncology, but it's also a widespread reproducibility crisis that's occurring throughout science. So, Moshe realized that this was, like I said before, that this was happening on multiple levels, and what can we do about this in order to make it easier for people, make it more efficient? And so another thing, something that I often encountered is something that I'm sure all scientists are familiar with. You're looking at a materials and methods section. In this case, we're looking at competent cell preparation. This text is a little small here, but up here, you look at the reference, and many things can happen. You're kind of chasing the reference, and it'll be a self-reference, or it could be a reference to a technique that was developed in the 1970s, and it's not necessarily up to par with modern scientific scrutiny and scientific rigor. So, you kind of go down the rabbit hole here and can't ever actually find the original experiment. So it makes it very difficult to replicate because of this as well. And so this was really Moshe's impetus for founding JoVE. And as we mentioned before, the real problem we need to address here is written protocols are not necessarily always clear, and they make it difficult to reproduce experiments on multiple levels, individual and societal. So that led Moshe to found the company, and in 2006, knowing that there is a better way, and that better way is to produce video publications. And once the video is produced, you can share that with your colleagues by email, and they can, through the much larger amount of information that's in the video, they can, in many cases, successfully replicate the experiment at a very low cost. It's just a matter of sending them the video, and after a couple trials, going through the video a couple times, we've heard reports that many times people are able to master the technique after this. Okay, and so this is kind of a typical example. This is a surgical technique. In this case, it's a neuroscience technique where they're working with C. elegans and removing. So let's look at the text here. This is from the text article. So first of all, there's not much text here. It's only 2 sentences, and there's not a ton of information. And so it just says tease out the digestive tract and trachea with forceps, disrupt the blood-brain barrier, and then transect the cerebral lobes here. So this is all accurate information. I mean, it's not ambiguous, but there is a lot of detail that's missing, especially in this case, because it's it's a surgical technique, for lack of a better word. So if you look at the video, there's much more information that can be learned from the video. So this is a relatively simple experiment, but as you can see from these 4 different vantage points, there is a lot that goes into it. So it's not, this text doesn't really tell you the spatial temporal information, or doesn't really go into detail about the angles of approach. And it doesn't really address the multiple ways that you're viewing this as the observer. So just to give you an example of what I mean is, you've got 2 different images here looking through the ocular. So there's that level, and you're also using a micro manipulator, as you can see down here, and looking with the naked eye at the procedure as it happens. So you've got that going on. You've got changing settings on the manipulator, and this is just really a lot of information that is not present in the text. What angle do you put the forceps at compared to the C. elegans? What angle do you put the forceps at compared to each other? And how do you position the C. elegans worm? Should it be vertical? Should it be horizontal? Completely unclear in this relatively brief text here. However, with the video, all this information is available, and in many cases, this is enough information to be similar to the level of information you get from sitting over someone's shoulder, watching them do it in person. And the video allows a comparable level of information. Okay, so that brings us to the benefits of JoVE, some of which I've mentioned. Okay, so let me go through these. So the efficient knowledge transfer within your lab. So what I mean by this is, let's say you have a very experienced postdoc in your lab. They're an expert on 10 different techniques, and they're moving on to an assistant professor position soon. What do you do? So you don't want to, as the PI of the lab, you certainly don't want to lose this knowledge. You want it to be transmitted to your more junior people in the lab, and make sure that there's a continuity of knowledge here. So producing a JoVE video for that technique and having your senior postdoc be the one that presents it, they can do the interviews, they can be the one that does the actual procedure, and then once it's published, you as the PI would have this video in your lab for posterity, and you can use it continually for training, and everyone will receive the exact same training because they're viewing the exact same video, so there'll be consistency. And also will save resources and travel, so they don't need to go to a different location. Another thing here, as far as a benefit, is accelerating your research. So the first aspect of that is reducing time and resources for failed experiments. So in many cases, in my experience, certainly, before you actually move forward with the final the final round of the experiment, if it's a new technique, you end up first practicing it dozens of times, and this can really, there's obviously going to be a lot of rounds that the experiment fails and you're wasting resources. So, and it's not just reagents, it can also, if it's animal work, it can also be wasting animals, which is obviously not a good thing. You want to, abide by IACUC rules and not use more animals than you need to, and having the JoVE video can really help with reducing the number of animals. Okay, and the last, the other thing I'll mention is many people use the JoVE video for grants, because there's oftentimes questions in the grant to to explain how you would be able to reproduce this, how you would be able to relay this information to other scientists to make sure that they can reproduce it. And many times when scientists are writing their grants, they explicitly state that they have produced a JoVE video, and then they can use that as a way to ensure that their methodology is able to be reproduced. So it's very helpful for getting grants renewed. And the last thing is increasing visibility within your community. So after you publish with JoVE as the author, you can use the video for any kind of academic purposes. We see a lot of authors sharing it at conferences, and especially if it's a novel technique, you want to share with the community and give them some details about the experiment. And academic websites, certainly we see a lot of PIs sharing on their websites, and also increasingly more popular is sharing on social media. So we see a lot of that as well. Okay. Okay, so that brings me to JoVE's scope. So it is a very broad scope, and we began as a life science journal only, primarily because Moshe was a life science, so a life scientist. So that's where we started off with some, typical life science sections: biology, biochemistry, cancer research. We've since moved on and have a couple non-life science sections. We have behavior, which focuses on a lot of psychological techniques, and we also have some physical sciences, including chemistry, engineering, which is applied physics, and we also have an environment section, which works on various kinds of environmental chemistry and conservation efforts. So as it stands now, the journal has a very wide scope, and it kind of covers the gamut of all of many different scientific disciplines. And the other thing I'll say first before moving on is that in the editorial department, for each of these sections, we have an editor, and they're dedicated to working on this section, helping authors discuss the science and helping them with the publication process. And this is this is what Debasish does. He'll be speaking next. He works on the bioengineering section, and he'll provide you some more details about the publication process itself. And as far as the type of methods that we can publish, the majority of our authors publish novel methods. And so, so that's our preference, and this can include various different kinds of scenarios. It can be a completely novel method, just just established recently, never been published. That's certainly acceptable, and really our preference to have the more novel techniques. And there also can be, in many instances, the author has published the technique in a results-based publication previously, and they want to present that same technique in a JoVE methods, video methods publication. So that's fine with us. And what we do is, just kind of expand the details of the experimental procedure from the previous paper, and ask permissions to reuse figures if that is necessary. It's no problem with us. And so mostly novel techniques. We also have adaptations, optimizations of existing techniques. So this is also common. We do tend to have a lot of techniques that are relatively similar to each other, and just a different variant. For instance, we may have immunofluorescence technique in mice, and then another author will come along and publish a similar technique, but it's in rabbits. So, we really strive to be a depository for different techniques. And authors, when they begin using JoVE videos to establish a experiment, what our feedback from them is that they often look at various different subtle variants of a similar technique. They'll go through and watch 5 different videos of a dissection, and then kind of synthesize those into their own technique that applies to their situation, and then they would use that. So our goal is to have as many different varieties of various techniques, and then the authors can decide which aspects they would like to use in their experiment. Okay, and we do, another thing is gold standard protocols. People at first glance may not think that a gold standard protocol would be a good fit for JoVE, because everyone already knows how to do this procedure, but that in practice is not actually true. So gold standard techniques, like let's say SDS page, or some more basic CRISPR experiments, things like that, are actually our most viewed videos, and they really receive a lot of exposure. And I think the reason for that is because they're such fundamental techniques that so many people are required to learn them, and they are a fundamental technique, so they want to make sure and learn them correctly from the beginning, because they're very important to many different aspects of their research. So that's another common type of publication that we do. And so everything I've described so far has been lab-based experiments, and that's really where the journal started. However, we have moved into various clinical methods. We do have an entire medicine section, and this is devoted to all different kinds of medical interventions, prevention, diagnosis, surgery, translational medicine. So it kind of runs the spectrum here of various different medical clinical modalities. And another option or another type of research we publish is fieldwork. So this one is becoming increasingly more common as we're expanding our environment section. It's mostly environmental scientists that are in the field, doing analysis of, it could be chemical analysis, that could be looking at various species, native species, animal behavior, zoology, conservation. There's a lot of field work that we see. And the last type that I'll mention is in silico work. So many scientists that work on in silico work, whether it's mathematical modeling, or in this case it looks like they're running a script of some kind, image analysis with machine learning. There's many different types of in silico work, and that is really, in most fields, seems to be the direction that they're heading. In silico work is becoming more and more popular, more and more important to modern science. So we want to make sure that we're able to accurately capture that in a video and allow people to replicate the experiment. So you can see here, to a non-computational scientist, this may look boring. Someone sitting at a computer screen. However, if this is your line of research, this can actually be incredibly helpful. And what we do in these cases is usually do a series of interviews with the person. So it's not just footage of them sitting at a computer. So it's more dynamic than that. They're able to explain their protocol in an interview, and then we do a series of screen shares, as you can see here, where we kind of go through and demonstrate whatever they're doing. Okay, so that brings me to the end here. So I'll stop my screen share, and Debasish can tell you guys more about the details of the publication process.
Yeah, thanks, Ron. Let me share my screen. Is it visible?
Yes.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining. And thanks, Ron, for explaining the entire history and what is all about JoVE. I will take you through the publication process in detail. And in the meantime, if you have any doubt or any question, please feel free to ask us. I will be happy to answer them. So each JoVE article, as you can see in the slide, has two parts. One is the text part, and one is the video part. So text part, it is the simple manuscript, which will be provided by the author. And the video part, usually it's taken care by us, JoVE. So I will take you through in details. So once we receive any manuscript, once we receive the manuscript, it will be simple text format manuscript without any video. We get the manuscript and we do our internal review. Then we send for the external peer review. And as soon as it is accepted by the external peer reviewers, the manuscript will be published as a text article. And this particular text part is very much familiar to all of us, and we publish to any other journal. This text part is very much familiar. Once the text part is accepted, we have a team of science writers. They will go ahead and write the script, and followed by the filming and post-production work. So I will take you through each step slowly. So as I mentioned, the manuscript preparation, it will be simple text format manuscript. Here we focus on methods per se. So the method section will be the largest part of our manuscript. I'll give an example. So if you think a manuscript is almost like 10 pages long, out of 10 pages, 6 to 7 pages is only about the method. We go to very details of each experiments, and each manuscript should have a table and at least one image. There is no upper limit. Authors can put how many images or tables they want. As Ron mentioned that we are okay with the previously published data or image. In those cases, authors are always welcome to use those, provided they have the permission to reuse them. So once we receive the manuscript, and this is the template of our standard manuscript, we share with our author once we speak to them. Each science editor in JoVE are dedicated to a particular author when they require any help. So these templates, everything, all the details will be provided to them. So as you can see here, it is highlighted here that it is mostly 10 pages maximum. We prefer that, and the author should highlight that particular section where which they want to be filmed. So here is example of a manuscript. As you can see, it is a very detailed protocol. And that, as I told you, the representative data and the discussion followed by the discussion, we do not read elaborate data data and followed by the explanations of those. So as Ron mentioned previously, the previously published data is fine. As you can see here, this figure, it is highlighted here. The figure has been modified from particular author. Authors are always welcome to do that as long as they are doing it ethically, and they have taken permission from those journals. So once we receive the manuscript, then it's time for peer review. There are two types of review. Each manuscript will undergo two types of review. First, our review team will do the internal review, make sure that that manuscript has a certain standard for our journal. Once that manuscript clears our internal review, it will go for the external peer review, and we'll definitely ask the author for their reviewer's name if they're available and okay to review the manuscript is fine. Otherwise, our team will take care of the entire review process. They will send to the particular suitable reviewers for that. And as soon as the peer review is complete, the text article will be accepted. So here at this point, as I told you before, this part is very much familiar to all of us who have published to any other journal. Here comes the most important question and the most fearing part of JoVE. Today, I just had a meeting with a person from Turkey, and he asked me that I don't know anything about filming, how we do all the editing and everything, videography. So we have a misconception that the author has to do all the hard work, and we know that as a scientist we are not good. We are not very good with videography. We are good enough up to microscopy analysis those data. That's it. And so JoVE will take care of the entire video process. So as soon as the manuscript is accepted, as I told, it will be published, and in our journal it will be mentioned. It will be mentioned as a video coming soon. In this time, that there will be a lot of background work, like first script writing. Our science writer will take up the manuscript and write a suitable script from there. That script will be shared with the author. Authors are always welcome to give some inputs or changes if required. Once the author accept the final script, our videography team will contact them. So on a given date by the author, our team will go there, visit there, and if anything is kept to be ready, our team will contact them before. So the filming usually it's done within a day, in between 6 to 10 hours, depending on the protocol. If it is a multi-day process, the authors has to keep ready the entire thing. It's like the incubation process can be skipped. It will be filmed in such a way. So after filming, all the post-production work, like editing, we have a team of voiceover artists. They will give the voiceover to narrate the entire protocol. Everything will be taken care by us. And then, as you can see, the entire filming process, it is the on-site filming, and it will be over the shoulder view, or if the technique is If there is any microscope required for that technique, in those cases, our team is occupied with all the necessary gadgets to do all the filming for those small but different, I mean, for those minute experiments. So after that filming, it will come to the post-production. As I mentioned that the voiceover, everything will be taken, editing and the voiceover, everything will be taken care by us. There is no work for the author to take care of this of those problem. You know, they think that they have to do all the editing. It is not that. We will take care entire thing, and once the author approves the final copy of that video, the video will also go for peer review, and as soon as it is accepted by the peer reviewers, it will be added to the manuscript. So that's the entire process. And also, as Ron mentioned earlier, author will, if they want, they have to send an email for their HD copy, so they can use it for conference, seminar, any without any commercial value. They can use those videos. So other than we have a very good coverage of videographers across 6 continents, and but there are some labs which don't come under our videography network, and also there are some labs where the outsiders are not allowed. Our videographers are not allowed. It might be a clean lab, it might be animal facility, it might be some government institutes. In those cases, we have two different options other than a job produced videos option. So we call as author provided footage and author submitted video. We definitely recommend that as the second option, which is author provided footage. In those cases, in that case, authors will be given all the supports apart from the filming, like the script writing. And on the day of filming, our videography team will be in contact with them to show over a Zoom call or Teams call, so to tell them where to keep those camera, which angle to put those camera, etc. And only thing the author has to do is film that and submit the raw footage. Rest of the enter post production enter post filming process like editing and the voiceover, everything will be taken care by us. And there is another old option we have, which is the author submitted video. If an author is already produced, already made a video and they want to use that video, they can also submit that. In those cases, the entire editing and the voiceover, all the details will be taken care by the author. So will not help them. And yeah, so that's the entire publication process. And I would like to remind you, there is no difference in the submission fees in between those 3 options. So we definitely recommend our author to make use of our professional videographers, so that the quality will be good, and it will be easier to get accepted by the peer reviewers, because we know that the process is authentic, because we have done the filming. And if any changes or editing required, our team will do that. So here it is. Please ask if you have any questions. We will be happy to answer them. Thank you. So I think, Ron, we can make this panel open for all if they want to ask any questions.
Yeah, so I see someone is raising their hand, Tawara Rana, so allow her to talk.
Just let me go there. I'll just stop sharing.
Yeah.
Oh, hi. I was just wondering, are there any costs involved if you want us to submit this, or how's that covered, the expenses?
Yeah. So we have two different submission fees based on the viewership. We have a standard access, which is $1,400, and open access is $3,900. And both the prices are including all the videography, editing, entire videography is included in there. So there is no extra charge for the video assistants, editing, and the voiceover artists. So all are all inclusive. It is for standard access is $1,400, and open access is $3,900. And we do have a list of countries who are not doing economically well. For that, we try to provide a discounted rate. And if somebody is interested, please contact us. We will share the list of the countries.
Cheers. Thank you. Thank you.
Ron, there are two questions I am reading out. You can give the answer. So Ruchi Gupta, she said that, so does the video manuscript citations gets equal credit as others?
Yes, yes. So it's the manuscript is indexed in PubMed, SciFinder, Scopus. So it does receive a lot of exposure. Whether Debasish just mentioned, there's two different access types. With open access, it gets a lot of exposure, but even with the standard access option, we have over 1,000 subscribing institutions throughout the world. So the exposure of the publication is relatively high, so that results in comparable number of citations to other methods journals, and perhaps more importantly is the number of views. So many of our videos get within the first month get approximately 1,500 views. And then it continues to go from there. You know, we have many publications with hundreds of thousands of views. So yes, it does get a lot of citations as well as views.
So the next question from Polly Lynch asks that, how does your viewership and citation rate compare to other traditional journals?
Okay, so this is a kind of a related question. So yeah. I think so our viewership is primarily more senior lab members. So it's mostly postdocs and graduate students. You know, it's not really undergrads or lab technicians that are using these. So it's usually more senior people. And the citation rate, so I mean, we can tell you the impact factor. The impact factor is 1.4. So that can give you an idea of the average citation rate, but there are many, there is a large portion of our videos that receive much more citations than that, but it's relatively similar to other methods journals.
So, anything else?
Okay, is there any other hand raises?
Yeah, so Rana has raised.
Yeah, it's me
please,
again. Sorry.
Please.
So
No problem, please.
What do you see this? I mean, I'm very interested. We working. I'm in Cardiff and in Wales, United Kingdom. But what do you see this as more of a sort? Is it like a journal to? I mean, I know you went through the options, and I appreciate that. I might be repeating that, but the main role, do you see it as like another journal, just highlighting things, or you think it's like if you're doing a research project over many sites to standardize that? Is that what is it at the moment? What do you think most of it is? Is it more like a regular journal just highlighting your procedures, or is it like, is it for coordinating research basically? At the moment, what do you see?
It's a little of both. So okay. I mean, the main function, and I think the main benefit is publishing the video. But there is also a text manuscript that goes along with that, which is indexed in PubMed. And it is, a lot of the videos are viewed individually, but we also have something called methods collections. And so what that is similar to a special issue. And so I think that is kind of what you were alluding to. So it is a lot of different techniques that are closely related, and they're all published under the under the umbrella of a single methods collection. So that can be kind of something similar to what you were describing. You know, it's a way to push an entire field forward with a lot of different methodologies that are closely related.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, Ruchi. Yeah, please go ahead, Ruchi. Ruchi Gupta has raised. Yeah, Ruchi, you can.
Yeah, I just got the unmute rights. Okay, so good morning. It's indeed a very useful and presentation, and I must say that I must really appreciate the initiative taken, because that's really the crux of the whole thing. Is like we really struggle with the new techniques and the niche techniques. So this is really a good initiative taken by the CEO, and he found this need and he invented this. He found this company. That's good. I just want to know, if I'm really interested in publishing with JoVE, whom should I get in touch with, and how can I get in touch with them? Should I just look for the website, or should I contact a particular person?
Yeah, so after this is over, we'll send a follow-up email to all the attendees, and we'll give you a recording, and Debasish would be the editor that you would be working with, so we can introduce you to him, and you know, he can be your primary contact, and we can you know, talk about the details more. So yeah, we'll send that out relatively soon after the webinar's over.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Sure, no problem.
Yeah, Dr. Arwa, please go ahead.
What's their name, Debasish? I don't see another one.
Dr. Arwa Eltohami. Yeah. Dr. Arwa, can you hear us? You can speak.
I think they might be muted.
No, it is not muted. It is unmuted.
Okay, it might be having an audio issue.
Yeah. Others who want to know more, please, we will share, as Ron mentioned, that we'll share a follow-up email just after this meeting, and you can always get back to us. I'll be the primary contact for all of you, and whatever the questions you have, I'll be happy to answer them.
Debasish, you based in UK, you?
Me?
Yeah.
No, right now I'm calling you from India.
From India. But who's in Edinburgh then, your link? You got somebody in the UK? I thought, no.
So in UK we do have an office, but it is mostly for our other financial department and everything we have there. But
Okay.
our main office for editorial office is in Boston, US, where we operate. Right now we are working from home, and very soon we'll be flying to Boston.
Brilliant, thank you.
All right, well, doesn't look like there's any more questions, so we can.
Yeah, it's almost like an hour, so we can wrap it up.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for attending, and like I said, we'll send out a follow-up email here shortly. And if you're interested in publishing, or if you have any other questions about the journal, then we can help you with that. So thanks again, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Yes, bye.